And what we'll be talking about today is real-time federation for extreme database monitoring across the entire IT stack, aka Enterprise Manager Federation. With me today is Zubair Anasari and myself, Tim Mooney. This is a part of the Oracle webcast series, Deep Dive with Enterprise Manager. Thank you all for joining. We are going to have a great session. It's going to be interactive. So you'll see at the bottom of your screen, you have a Q&A panel. We have experts on the line supporting from the development team. So this is a great opportunity for you to get firsthand interaction with our development team if you have any questions or comments. We also have opened the chat. So if you have specific interest in the functionality that we're talking about, go ahead and send a chat to our panelists with your contact information, and we can circle up with you and do more specific with you. Let's see, any other logistics that we need to cover? I will say this session is live now. We are recording it, so you can get a streaming version of this after we're done. We'll also make the slides available after the session as well. We do have a demo. I'll have Zubair introduce our demo panelists when we get there. And with that, let's go on to the next slide. So here's our agenda. I just want to highlight for those of you that aren't aware, Enterprise Manager 13.5 is now out. And then I will turn it over to Zubair to get into federation. And a picture is worth 1,000 words, and you'll see that because we'll run a demo. You'll see firsthand what we're talking about here. And then again, like I said, we have Q&A throughout the session. Use that panel down on the bottom. We'll also have some dedicated time at the end where we'll discuss your questions. So please join us in doing that. We also have a couple of poll questions. This is purely for the development team to help get some information from you on their planning for new features and those kinds of things. So participate in those polls as well. All right, next slide. So it was really just a few short weeks ago, we had Edward Screven, our chief corporate architect, announcing Enterprise Manager 13.5 with some great new features, really bringing some cutting edge features to Enterprise Manager about managing a hybrid cloud environment. There's some new enhanced features around automation, so you can automate your IT operations around databases and so on. And then some new extensibility using open standards for interoperability, a mobile application that Zubair was a part of. So if you want to see this is another YouTube video. Just do a search. And I also have this in the resources at the end. Next slide. So Zubair, we're going to be talking about federation here. Can you just open it up and share with people what you're hearing from customers, why they like this notion of federation, and what are they going to use it for?
Sure, Tim. Thanks a lot for introducing me, and thanks a lot, folks, for joining our call today. We are really pleased to, talk to you about this new exciting capability, fully baked in Enterprise Manager, and we will also show you a demo of it. And then we would like to hear from you in terms of your use cases and any specific needs you have in terms of managing your environment across your complete enterprise from a single pane of glass. All right. So
hey, Zubair, just thinking out loud here, do you mind if we run this poll to get people energized and interacting here? We can run our introduction poll.
Yeah, absolutely. Tim, please go ahead.
All right, let me see. Launch poll. All right, this quick and easy poll, just go ahead and pop your answers into this poll. Essentially, we're looking to understand how many instances of Enterprise Manager are you running? And then similarly, which release option are you running? Which release version are you running of Enterprise Manager? So let's just give that a couple of seconds to play out, Zubair, before we go on.
No, it is. Yeah, I think this is a very important input for us to talk to our audience today.
Great. All right, we got half of you voted already. That's great. Really appreciate it. Give it a couple more seconds here, and then we'll jump back to the slides.
Yeah, I think it would be good to hear from most of you so that we understand your needs depending upon how many VMs you have, what version of VM you're running.
All right, I'm going to give it 2 more seconds, and there you go. Over to you.
Hey, Zubair and Tim, just a note, we've got some folks that have, I think, some mixed versions. So one of our attendees was noting that. So that might be a talking point as well during today's call.
Yeah, no worries. So we can talk through that as well. Okay. So looks like, based on the number one poll question, vast majority of the folks on the call today have more than one EM. And I think the functionality we are covering is primarily for the customers who have that kind of environment where they have multiple EMs and they would like to kind of manage all of these from a single pane of glass view. And here is what we're going to talk about, EM federation capability, right? So this feature is just introduced. So, this is just a beginning of a rich set of functionality we will be delivering in next few releases of EM down the road, right? So let me just introduce to you what the federation capability is all about. So first and the foremost, this functionality is completely baked into EM. What it means is there's no plugin or software need to get installed in order to use EM federation capability, right? Currently, what it offers is a single pane of glass dashboard view. So once you enable federation, and we'll talk about how to enable federation, you will see a new menu option. And once you go into that menu option, you will see a federated view of your environment. And essentially, it's a consolidated summary of all the EMs you want to federate data from. So as we offer you 4 different panels, and which I'll talk about in the next few slides. And each of these panels offer single widget summary of overall number of targets, incident, problems, and jobs, right? And then also details about the specific EM related summary for each of these categories, and lets you launch into a specific EM, right? So that way, instead of user trying to manage multiple EMs, groups across these EMs, you can manage all of them from a single point of glass view on the Enterprise Federation dashboard and drill down into specific EMs for manageability, right? We take care of all the user privilege and access control that is set up on every EM. So if user does not have access on a specific group or specific targets on a specific EM, when they are looking at federated view, all of that is honored as part of the EM federation. So it's kind of maintained across the board, right? Right. How do you enable federation on EM with specific 13.4 and 13.5 onwards? We'll show you live, but essentially there is a federation setup. It's one-time setup. You enable that using specific command line options. Add the EMs you want to be as part of the federation group. And once you do that, you will see a menu option popping up on your EM main menu, which will be called EM Federation Dashboard. And once you launch that, you will land into the Enterprise Federation Dashboard functionality, which will look something like this. So this is actual view. We'll showcase this today to you in a live demo. This essentially provides overall single pane of glass view of your entire environment you are federating. So in this case, I'm federating 4 EMs. As you can see, the top one shows the consolidated widget summary, right, for each of these areas. The second one tells you specific numbers, how many targets are up, how many targets are down in different statuses. Similarly, in the incident category, we give you a 7 days average as well as specific numbers, right? This is important for the IT managers and directors so that they can understand what is the trend of my incident in last 7 days. How many incidents are getting closed? How many incidents are changing, right? So I can essentially, look at the overall triaging status of incident in my environment, right? Similarly, we have problems and jobs. In future, we want to add compliance as well, and that's one of the feedback we would like to get from you guys. Okay, and any other functionality that we would like to add. This is completely customizable dashboard in the future. Right now, this is a dashboard that we offer out of the box as is, but in future we would like to also make it customizable based on the needs. So something we would like to get input from you guys. All right, and the last panel or the last set of widget is essentially what we call drill down widget. It gives you every row for a EM, specific numbers that are presented consolidated on the top widgets. On the bottom widgets, you see the actual numbers from every EM, and this is essentially the drill down option. This is where you drill down. So if I click from a specific on a specific number, I will essentially be launched into that particular EM based on what panel of drill down I have clicked. For example, if I click on the incident, I will go in context drill down into that specific EM for an incident or for a target. One more functionality which I forgot to mention is we also offer scope filter capability. So you can look at this dashboard in all target mode, or you can select a specific group. The number of group that you have available that are common or you want to federate, you can specify at the time of the setup of the federation, and those groups would appear on this scope filter, and you can drill down and scope this dashboard based on that particular group. So that way, if you don't want to see all the targets, rather you are interested in specific group. For example, if you are database admin and you manage a specific business units database across all your EM, in that case, you can federate that group, and you're able to see federated view of your complete environment based on that group filter. Okay. So that's how you're able to filter. Okay. We also offer consolidated group dashboard for federated environment. So for example, if you have multiple groups that you are interested in as IT manager or IT director, and you want to see how is the status of all my group that I want to federate and look at a consolidated view of those groups, you can do that as well. So in this case, I have created 3 groups that I want to federate. Each of these groups are available across all my EMs, and I'm able to see the overall status and overall number of target and their status and the incidents for those groups across all my EM. So when I select the tab on the top, instead of seeing by site, I can see my federated view by group. I can do that as well. And here I can see all the group and the overall status of that, right? So this is actually a switchable view. You can click on the group, and then you go back to the group-based status by each EM. And if you want to come back to the group view so that you can see a consolidated view of each group in a single dashboard across all your EM, you can do that as well. So these are essentially the primary capability that we are offering for federation across all your EM. This is a very slick and easy functionality that we offer, and this is completely in real time. So you are not seeing this data stored on your master EM or primary EM, but rather we are getting this data at real time from all the EMs when you are visualizing this. And you can refresh this as well. As you can see on the right hand side, we have auto refresh, or you can initiate a refresh and it will be refreshed immediately. Okay. All right. So I will also quickly talk about how do you set up federation, as I said, as I talked in my second slide. So in order to set up your federation, one of the EMs you have to designate as primary EM, and on that EM you will run some emctl property commands, set property commands, and then you would add the EMs that you want to federate data from. Right? So in my case, I had 4 EMs, so I would select all those 4 EMs to be added into my EM group as part of the federation setup. If needed, I have to import the certificate, and then I will also add the user that would be taking part into this federation. Okay. So this is a very simple setup. As part of the demo, we will showcase that how to add a new EM into the existing federation. And if you have any further questions, we'll take those as well.
Hey, Zubair, I've got a quick question for you that's coming up. When you, what you just walked through here answers one of the questions, which is federation is something integral to the console. So the other half of that question is there any licensing requirements to add federation?
Yeah, thanks, Tim. So there is absolutely no license required for this functionality. This is offered free of cost to all our EM customers today. And as the other question was, yeah, this is all integrated into the EM. So once you have the right version of the EM that support federation, you can pretty much use the federation capability natively.
All right, great. And then just one last logistics note. If you have questions, use the Q&A panel. It helps us because that's where all our experts are. Use that Q&A panel and we can get back to you with answers instead of the chat side.
All right. Okay. Any other question, Tim or Vox? I'm unable to see the Q&A while
you're
presenting.
doing great.
Right.
Go ahead.
All right. So I would go to the next slide in which I will introduce my colleague Samir Bhagwat, who is one of our lead manager on this project. He will go through the live demo. Before I hand it over to him, I will talk about what we would showcase to you in the demo itself. So we'll showcase to you live environment in which we have around 4 EMs, and we'll take you through the enterprise single pane of glass view of the federated environment. That's what we call global view. And then we will also kind of take you into different group that we have configured for federation. Essentially, these groups are not new groups. These are essentially the group that you have common across all your EM, and you want to see the federated view of all of these groups in a single pane of glass view, so that instead of going to individual EM, you are seeing it in a federated environment. So this is primarily, if you are DBAs or DB management folks, and you have a group of databases for different environment across all your EMs, you can see it from a single pane of glass view. And depending upon how your environment is, you can drill down if there is a DB incident into a specific EM, and you can also look at the status of a specific database, right? So this way, it's like a federated view for the database management is like a center point or a control point, right? For the database admins, right? So that's what we'll showcase. We'll also showcase federated RBAC capability. So how different users would see the federated environment based on the access permissions they have, right? And towards the end, we will also add a new EM to our existing federation environment to showcase how new EMs can be added. All right. So at this point, I will stop share and I will hand it to Samir. All right. Samir, all to you, man.
Hello. Yeah. Thanks, Zubair, for giving the context. It makes my demo job much more easier. Hi, everyone. So I'm Samir. I work in the development lead for the Federation. So let me quickly share the screen. So what we are going to do today is basically use the live site and we will be doing a live demo. So this is a primary site which Zubair talked about. It starts with sbhagwat dot dot dot, and that's the primary site which is being configured as a primary EM, which has EMs, other EMs federated. I will log in using Samir to this particular site. So as said, like since this site is configured, we are going to see the EM Federation dashboard menu. So I will go into that. Yeah, so this Federation dashboard, as Zubair already talked in detail about it, like this gives an enterprise level summary of different areas like target, incident, problems, and jobs. So one of the important things is like at the enterprise level, like we will have like lot many targets. And one of the functionality which we have added is like for the group-based management is anyone can have a configured, let's say DB groups, and they can actually add it in the federation. That in this case, we are interested in DevOps group, ERP database groups, as well as production database groups. And in this primary site, as you can see, like we have configured 4 EMs. So we are getting the data live from the 4 EM, that is IN South, US North, US South, and US West. So let's see, like from a perspective, I'm more interested to actually zoom in and wanted to see like what's happening in the prod database across my enterprise. So what I will do is I will filter down by selecting the prod database, and the whole federated view will now show the data related to the prod database. So let's say like I have something to look for in India South here in the incident area. So I want to see like what is this critical incident that's showing up here. So I will just click this link to get into the details. So currently what it will do is whatever the site is configured, it will go into that particular site and show in context about the incident. So the incident that we saw before in the federated view is coming from the sales DB, and it is giving a capacity critical alert that the table space is above a threshold, which we need to look at. So that's a very important thing, like looking from federation, we can narrow it down to individual EM. That will help us manage and triage the issues faster. Okay, so let me get back. So the another use case which I want to demonstrate, like what Zubair already talked about, is the group-based management. Now, let's say for a user, their interest is to see like only the groups that they have configured, and they want to have a single pane of glass to see all what is happening for those groups. So they can come to this view by groups, which is nothing but a consolidated views of all the groups. So here we will see like all data consolidated per group across all EMs. So here, for example, like DevOps database, like we have like consolidated incidents across all the 4 EMs we talked about. And if you want to go into details, again, we can go use this link. It will go to the view by site and actually show the incidents there. Okay, so so next is like what I want to talk about is the role-based access. So just to give the context, so for the role-based access, I just showed like there was an incident on the sales DB database regarding the table space, which Samir as a user has access to. So what I will do is I will log out from Samir user and log in back with Zubair user. So Zubair user doesn't have access to that sales DB. So we want to make sure that whoever uses the federation dashboard will see the data that they have access to. So again, I've logged in as Zubair, and I will go into the enterprise federation dashboard. Okay, let me also filter down based on the prod database. Okay, so so what one can notice is like the incident that was seen for Samir user here is not visible because Zubair doesn't have access to it. So we protect whatever are the security configurations or role-based access to the individual users while getting the federated data. So I think that's one part which I wanted to talk about. The next section, actually, what I would go through is we talked about like, okay, how to configure an EM, because we already saw like there were 4 EMs there. So let me just give a quick steps, like what are the steps to add a new EM into the master EM. So, okay, so at this point, like what I have is a Postman just to use for the REST APIs, but anybody can use their own tools to call the REST APIs, either the curl command or any other tool they have for the REST APIs. So what I have currently in the Postman is we are interested in adding how we can add a site. So what I've done is like, this is the EM host, which is nothing but the primary host, which we saw. And basically this is the path. But the important thing is like EM sites is a resource. So what I'm doing is I'm doing a post, which means an ad. And what I'm doing is I'm naming the EM site as, let's say, EU site. And I've given the site URL, which starts, the host name starts with ddlib and the port number. And what I will do is I will send the request. Okay, so it has added a site. So after we do an add, we get a unique ID. So any resource, EM site, which is a resource, will have the unique ID, which we will use for the later REST APIs. So the next step, what Zubair talked about, that was step 3. This may be optional as well, but since my site has self-signed, so I need to add the certificate to make sure like there is a trusted connection between the primary EM and the federated EM. So what I need to do is we also have an API to add the certificate. Yeah, one more point to which I missed is for adding an EM site or adding a certificate for making the means configuring the federated sites, that can be only done by the super admin. So let me again stress, like I've just used a sysman user, but you can use any super admin user to add a certificate or add a EM site. And this can be done only once per EM installation that way, not per user. So what I will do now is, again, just to stress on the path, we have the initial path, then we have the EM sites. And what I will do is I will actually add the ID, which was generated for our new EM site, and add the certificate here. We are doing a post. So I have already downloaded the certificate for ddlib site. So I will just use the PM format of the certificate. And basically I will do a send. Okay, so the certificate is added for the EU site that we have. Now the next step, that was the step 4 in the slide, what Zubair said, is we need to link the credentials. So this has to be per user because we have the role-based access based on that. So what I would be doing next is I would link this. Again, I have to give, like, for the EM site, I will tell the unique ID of that. And I'm attaching a credential to it. So I will do a post. And the important difference here is I'm adding the site, means I'm giving the credential link for Samir, not Sysman, because I'm going to link this. This has to be done per user. So what I'm doing is I already had created a credential. I'm just referring that, and I'm going to post this. Okay, so the credential is added. So now let's look back. Let's go back to the site, the Federation dashboard. Let me log in back as Samir user to see what happens for that EU site. Okay, so let me go into EM Federation dashboard menu. Oh, great. So so one can look like we just added the EU site, and that has been added. Okay, so there looks to be like one target which is down. We can actually go drill down into that for this newly added site. Now, if you notice, this was the site that we have added, and the target down is like the finance standby DB, which is down. So this again highlights like if you want to do a manage and triage the issues, you can start from the federation, then go in context of the federated view seamlessly. So federation helps to manage and triage things um, and gives a very single pane of glass for everyone to do that. So I think that's pretty much it, what I had to share today. I think my demo hopefully would be useful to you.
Great.
Hey, thanks, Samir.
Great job. Let's see. First of all, I want to say for the audience, thank you, Steve, for sending out the Moss note on using Postman. Yeah, and so this is our time for dedicated time for your questions and answers. So we do have our panelists on hand. We also have a poll that I want to share. After seeing that demo, tell me what you think might be an interesting use case for you. So first one, what would be your primary use case for using federation? And if it's more than one, select multiple, and hopefully the multiple choice works this time.
So Tim, if they fill out the poll, is there some type of raffle or contest, something that is exciting?
Steve, I'm so glad you asked. For anybody that fills out the poll, you will be entered in the raffle that will enable you to use federation in your environments free of charge. So everybody that enters this poll will be entered into that drawing.
In actuality, not even a raffle. It is just available, no charge. Got it, Tim.
Okay, busted. You got me on that one. So yeah, thank you everyone for filling out the poll. There's a couple other questions there. And we want a little perspective on what your role is and who you see as users of the Federation capability. So thanks for filling that out. We do appreciate that, especially from the development team. And continue using that Q&A panel. If you have questions specific to your environment or something that you think might be of interest to everybody, please go ahead and ask your questions there. And you'll note here that we do have the URL for Enterprise Manager. You'll find all sorts of resources there. Zubair, if you click to the next slide, while people are asking their questions, we can refer to these resources. Yeah, so let me walk through this. Continue using the Q&A panel, and I'll just talk to this until we have questions that we can answer live. So on the blog side, we have a very active blog. It's blogs.oracle.com/OEM for Oracle Enterprise Manager. I'm highlighting the 13.5 release blog there. And then the next one doesn't have a link because Sumer and Zubair are writing that right now. And that'll be a good reference for this webinar in general. It also will have a replay of the this webinar and downloadable slides from this session. So you can get that there. On the social media side, the first one I want to point out is we have a demo series where you can see things like the demo that Sumer did. That'll be posted there. And there's a number of other how-to demonstrations there. There's a number of customers and a bunch of good information on YouTube, our YouTube channel. So that's worth a look. We're very active on Twitter. There's 20-something thousand followers on Oracle_MGMT. please join us there. And then on the web, how to do this configuration that Samir walked through is in the documentation there. And as I pointed out, oracle.com/enterprise-manager has all sorts of resources. And this webinar is part of the webinar series. It's a deep dive series covering all sorts of enterprise manager topics. Coupled with these webinars are workshops. So there's an image of the page there on the right. Most of the webinars, there is a workshop that goes on along with it. So you can see firsthand what we're talking about in these scenarios. I'm going to pause right there. Any of my panelists want to comment or any?
Yeah. Hey, Tim, I just want to offer it up as part of some of the programs that we run for Enterprise Manager is we have a customer advisory board. And this seems to be a very pointed group of people interested in this. And I'd like to, and I put this in the chat, but I'd like to extend the offer. If you're interested in continuing this discussion and are interested in providing feedback to development in a more formal process, we can discuss inviting you to the customer advisory board. So if you're interested, just send the panelists your email and we'll follow up with you. But it's just an offer I just wanted to put out there.
Great. All right. Thank you, Dave. Dave is on our
thanks, Dave.
product management team as well. Very good. So yes, please. I see more questions coming in. That's great. And as Dave said, we do want to follow up with you. So this feature is something that was incorporated and built based on your feedback, you, the greater you. So please participate if you're of interest in this topic. Let us know on by way of the chat with your email address or some contact information. So Zubair, Samir was asking me how much time does he have to write this blog? Just to make sure he's in the hot seat, how much time are you going to give him to finish
Well,
this blog?
yeah. I mentioned this to Samir a couple of weeks ago, so I think he should get it done as soon as possible.
Yeah.
I'll touch base with him.
Yeah. It is a blog too, so
Yeah.
I want to make sure everybody gets a chance to get the recording and also the slides, and we can always update the blog. We'll get a first iteration out within the next week. I'll promise. All right, we're still getting questions. Let me see if there's anything we want to discuss here. Zubair, is there anything that has come to your mind that you want to highlight for our audience?
Tim, not specifically. I think as I mentioned, this is just 1.0 release of Federation. So we are just getting started with this. So a bunch of functionalities will be added to this, right? Like one of the things you saw today is the setup for Federation still using APIs. So all of that would be, available via UI sooner or later.
Okay.
And so that's one of the functionality, we will be adding, and then compliance functionality, right? Customization capability, whole bunch of things. So maybe, once we get customers in on our CAB session, as Dave pointed out, we'll share more details. And more importantly, we would like to hear from our customers, specifically who have more than one EM in their environment and want to use Federation actively, to tell us what exactly their use case is, right? So,
Yeah.
in the past, we heard a lot about reporting capability, like a NOC style Federation dashboard, and also, a Federation dashboard for different types of persona, like, application admin, DB admin, or somebody who wants to do troubleshooting. So, within the IT environment, under IT manager or IT director, there are different people doing different types of roles. So we would like to hear all of those and specific use cases for customizations, and also different types of widgets that we can offer. So Tim, yeah, the slate is wide open in terms of what we can do based on what needs we hear from our customers.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, and I will say, I mean, not being in the thick of it like your audience here, I see how this could be really valuable where DBAs are setting up monitoring capabilities for DevOps teams or things like that, where the DevOps needs their certain amount of information and the DBAs can provide that self-serve and give them real-time information. So does it make sense? Would you use any of these screens, even if you only had one EM, like setting up for users or groups or regions, those kinds of things? Is that something that those with a single instance would be able to benefit?
So for single EM customers, we are also introducing EM dashboard, which will offer similar dashboard capabilities. Federation is specifically designed for customers who have more than one EM, right?
Yeah.
So unless you have more than one EM, using Federation won't be much of use, because essentially the goal of this functionality is to get data from more than one EM and present it in a consolidated manner. Right? If you have a single EM, you are sitting on it and you want to see customizable single pane of glass view of different types of data, brought from different, EM is a pretty vast product, right?
Yeah.
And get it into a single screen. We will offer EM dashboard that Edward, launched in 13.5. We would do a webinar on that as well, Tim, sometime in August to showcase live and also showcase some of the upcoming features in that. All right.
That's great. Okay. All right, we're still getting questions in. Is there anything that my panelists are seeing that they want to highlight to the rest of the audience?
Hey, Tim, if please send us these questions afterward as well, so we can answer them to specific users and have some discussion opened up. That would be good.
Yeah, and Zubair, I think that's a great point. I see some very technical questions that may be related to a specific user's environment.
Yeah.
And generally, we're trying to get the questions answered right away that hopefully impact everyone. But again, thank you for all these wonderful questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. We will get back to you regardless of what your topic is. And like Zubair said, we will follow up with your questions afterward. We may need to connect with you and your Oracle team to get to the specific issue you have.
All right. There are some more questions being answered. Samir, if you don't mind, just take care of the open question.
Yeah.
Okay, we still have a little bit more time and the questions keep coming in. So that's great. And we'll keep the line open as long as we can. And we're still answering your questions. So thanks for that.
Tim, I think we can let folks go and continue to leave it open and answer questions, just if there's any other wrap up you have.
Oops, sorry, I was on mute there. I think I've covered everything that I have. So thank you very much to our audience. Thank you, Zubair. Thank you, Samir. Great demo, great presentation. And and our panelists. Really appreciate all the support and help. And all right, one last thing I will say, this is a deep dive series, and we have another session coming up next week at the same time. Next week's session is maximize performance and scalability of Enterprise Manager with self-monitoring and near zero downtime patching capabilities. So we'll be continuing to talk about enhancements and new features that came out in 13.5. And if you have topics that you're interested in, please let us know. All right, thanks again, everyone. And we will answer your questions, but we'll wrap up the webinar for today.
All right, thanks, guys.